The mayor, discuss with the mayor, America's mayor, that's me. And you will notice we are in a different environment. We're in a different climate. We're in a different state. Same country, though. And this is sometimes known as the free part of America, where freedom exists. It's called Florida. And we're here and we are feeling guilty. We're feeling guilty for the people back north that are suffering, although the weather has improved mightily in the Northeast the last day we were there, except you can't help but think about the terrible, terrible tragedy in Buffalo. I'm very close to Buffalo. Many friends there. I spent a lot of time there. I tried a case there once, a fairly lengthy case. Great city. 38, 30, 37, 38, 39 people, possibly more, dead from a storm. The one who died in the car. I mean, this is not, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I don't know who was involved in this, but from the governor on down, there should be an analysis of how that happened and why it happened. And it doesn't seem like, it just doesn't seem right that someone to be in a car for 20 plus hours or more in a city with 1 million people. And I know it was very, very bad and terrible and awful, but I've been in terrible, awful snowstorms and to a way to get around that I don't ever remember. Although I did experience either the worst or the second worst snowfall in the history of New York City. Something like 24 inches in a day. I think that was right. 26 inches in a day. The mayor got around. It didn't stop me. Sorry. Even in the middle of the night, we went and opened a pizza place and got them to make pizza for the people who were working for 911. And my friend Peter Powers, who was my best friend, along with Alan Parker, my oldest friend, two best friends. But Peter was my deputy mayor, and Peter, as a young man in Queens, used to make pizza, which I knew I'd forgotten. And we opened the pizza place, and they were very tired. And it was like poor one guy left. He probably was stuck there, not able to go home. And the owner said it was okay. You know, he would try to get some people in. And I just took my cops and Peter, and we made 26 pizzas and shuffled them back and forth to the police department. Just a memory. But my prayer and my willingness, if you want help, I'm more than willing to help. This is something, you know, everybody does something well. This is what I do well. And I handle snowstorms. We were on the front cover of national magazines, and Saturday Night Live dug out of the snow faster than anybody in the country. And I treated it like a military mission. I treated it like a battle in a war. And I get my sanitation department, who are my snow removers, all energized to fight the battle. We're gonna beat the snow before the snow beats us. And in a city like New York, where response time is life and death, you got to do it. And also, it's billions of dollars, trillions maybe, if Wall Street gets closed down. So you got both those things going. You commercial that are crucial, and it's the reason you're in public office. The reason in public office is you can do it better than somebody else. And if you don't think you can, and you can't, and you don't work at it and train, then quit and go make a lot of money and have somebody else do the job. Zuckerberg is getting hit 2% decline in his new company, which I don't understand, to tell you the truth. I don't understand Meta. I really don't know. I know they own Facebook and Instagram, and we're on Facebook. Maybe you should change it to Face Group. Maybe that would work. Who knows? I don't know what's happened with Facebook and Instagram. I hope they're loosening up the way Twitter is and not haven't gotten a warning in a while. Haven't been thrown off. But I'm not, when the times that it happened, I wasn't sure I knew why it happened completely. One time I had some taken off. Go back a year ago. But I don't understand it. They found it had something to do with, I think it had something to do with COVID or something about my saying, that you better be careful about the vaccines, or raising one of the things that I had read about one of the studies in Europe about the side effects of the vaccines. Or maybe it was criticizing Dr. Fauci. Oh, I know what it was. I put on one of the doctors who was an expert on hydroxychloroquine, not Dr. Zelenko, who I had on several times, but a doctor. They did terrible things to this doctor. I mean, he's like one of the leading doctors in Massachusetts, and I think it was and they ruined his practice, and they found out that I had him on like 8 months earlier, and they took those episodes down, and I got got penalized, and if you get a certain number of points, you're taken off, and then you get a certain number of points, you're executed. I mean, you're off forever. But hopefully those days of the post-French counter-revolution are over, and Robespierre and the little group that he appoints to tell us what we can say and not say, although they were done through private companies that met every day with the government, is over. And we've gone back to being Americans again, because people are not Americans. There's something, they come out of a different culture, civilization, background that is more similar to Chinese communism, Russian communism, German Nazism, as well as the group now that tells us what we can say. I mean, the New York Times is having a problem with words. The New York Times published an online quiz of offensive words with a poll of 4,000 adults, and they got a little surprises. For example, I didn't know this. You're not supposed to say. Well, I won't say it. I don't want. You have to say chest feeding. Get it? You have to say chest feeding.
Why?
Could we get the police, please? I would like to swear out disturbing them for using inappropriate words. Yes. Oh, I'm in Florida. DeSantis doesn't do that. Okay, good. Okay, when we get back to New York, I'll call Hochul and Adams and those, but they're into that. They're much more into that. And of course, Biden's away, so maybe we can get away with it. Well, I guess you're not supposed to say breast. But when they took the poll, 85% of the people said, screw you, we're going to say breast. It doesn't look like it has popular support, Ted. How about this one? You know this. I know you know this. You're not supposed, if a very good friend of yours comes by, right, a woman friend, and you know the embarrassing situation where the woman looks to tell if she's pregnant or not?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, you better, first of all, I agree with this. Do not say a woman is pregnant unless you know she is.
You have to know 100%.
Okay, because I've had that happen. I'm pregnant. No, I'm not. And then the next conversation after that is you get sick and have to go away quickly or duck or whatever. However, now if you know the woman is pregnant, if your friend calls you and told you, my wife Mary is pregnant. Oh, congratulations, Jack. And then you see Mary, it's so wonderful that you're a pregnant woman. She's going to smack you in the face.
Really?
It is.
To say.
It is not politically to say she's pregnant. You can't say the word pregnant. You can't say pregnant woman.
What do you say?
Birthing parent. Congratulations on being a birthing parent. That's the way to say it.
You're kidding.
I'm telling you what the
New York Times?
Well, this is the poll they did about these are the new words that are acceptable, and do people agree? 66% said no. 66% said no, and 86% said yes to pregnant woman. That was perfectly appropriate.
Yes, 86%. 14% is still high.
Yeah, breastfeeding was 85%. So the 15% that are going to go around saying chest feeding.
Who are these 15%? I don't know that I know too many of them.
Oh, come on.
The New York Times.
Come on. You walk around New York, 15% aren't weirdos? Come on.
You got me.
Come on.
There,
Used to be before they had this thing in their ears you could pick up because they were talking to themselves. Now you can't even tell the ones talking to themselves because they have, the phone on and they're talking to themselves. The first time I saw one that was talking to themselves, then I saw another one, then another one. I said, boy, the darn thing's become an epidemic. They're all walking around talking to themselves, but they were talking into their phones. It's worked. The pressure on Alvin Bragg appears to have had its first effect, first casualty. He took a guy who had a simple looting of a store, Dwayne Reed, got him held without bail. Now, how did that happen? This guy has done it because this year, I'm sorry, since the summertime, he's been arrested 33 times for it. He figured. So what he did to get around the crazy, he put a bunch of them all together into one case and made it into a big case, and the judge denied bail. The guy whose name, I don't think he's related, is Wilfredo Ocasio. He must have been the most stunned guy in the world. He was already working on where he was going to do his looting next. He gets caught, apparently are pretty close to closing down because of Bragg. They're getting like boosted. They call it boosted about 4 or 5 times a night. Everything's locked up. You want a toothpaste. It takes about a half hour to get the toothpaste. I'd like a toothpaste, please. Would you please stand here and don't move and stand behind this camera? And then while you're there, a guy comes in, rips them all apart, takes them all out, walks out, and the security guy tells you can't do anything. That's New York under Democrats. Republicans wouldn't allow that. Well, Bragg finally, with all the pressure, these guys, so it could be they're cracking the lib. Could be. Ed Koch used to say, you want to make a liberal or conservative, mug them. So you think about that. The other one is this word Latinx. Are you familiar with this Latinx thing? Now, this one I knew indicates that all these guys are, these people are, what did you say before? Nerds or weird or weirdos? Too many, 15% of too many weirdos. Yeah. I realized that the New York Times editorial board and people like that, they live in a hermetically sealed chamber, which happens when they're at the New York Times. And first thing that happens is rational thought ends, and they just start thinking about what they can say to each other that will impress each other, about who's really the smartest and who's the brightest and who has the most progressive thoughts. So some of them, one person must have come up with this thing, feeling that people who are Hispanic or Latino, Latin, are offended by the distinctions in gender when we say Latino and Latino. So they came up with Latinx. You got the wrong group. Well, I don't know about this poll. They prefer Latino or Latina. I've seen polls where to Latino. So that might be a way around it. You don't have to do the Latinx thing, and you don't have to indicate that somebody's a male or a female. By the way, what's the problem in doing that? Ayan Hershey Ali has an excellent column in the Post today, the Year of the Women, and it seems like it's going to be a real breakthrough year, but it's going to be very different in the East as opposed to the West. In the East, the great battle is in Iran, and women are just relentlessly moving forward because their rights have been obliterated for years under the reign of terror. And in America, females are going to be, women are going to be emancipated by being done away with. Then we won't have any discrimination because we'll have no women, because we can't define women. As our new esteemed Supreme Court Justice told us, Hanji Brown Jackson said it's impossible for her to define a woman because she's not a biologist. Can make hell of a Supreme Court justice, huh? Very bright. She can't define a woman. So what we're doing in America is, by virtue of eliminating the word, we're going to eliminate the category. There'll no longer be women. So let me be sexist or whatever, but this positively gorgeous woman could come up to me, and I could have a reaction like I shouldn't say normal, like I think some people have, but I can't. I would have to say, I would have to deny that I realized it was a woman, because if I thought it was a woman, then I would be as smart as Justice Brown. People can't tell if you're a woman. Now, if I were a biologist, I could. But because it's a very, very secret society, and they have ceremonies and stuff, I can't become a biologist. I have to go through the secret society and become a biologist. Then say someone's a woman. The real question is, maybe we should set up, you and I, an app, and you can communicate with a biologist. You can take a picture of the person that you're not sure of, and you could send it to the biologist. And we could do this. We could start with the one with the problem. And then the biologist at the other end of the app could make a positive identification and say, Ted, yes, that's a woman. Or then the biologist could say, Ted, that's a man. Or the biologist could say, right? Could say pass. I would rather not get into any further examinations beyond that, certainly not by telephone. But usually, I usually don't have a problem with this. I hope nobody's taking Southwest, huh? Wow. I tell you who did a really good job on that one, because you don't even notice that he's involved. Buttigieg. Is he in Virgin Islands with the president, like carrying his bags or something? Or
yeah, that's the.
Yeah, he wants to be vice president. He doesn't, because he thinks vice president is like being Secretary of Transportation. You don't have to go to work. You can stay home and take care of your baby, and then you make press conferences when something happens, and you don't know anything about it because you were home taking care of your baby, so you don't have any problem. What do you think of the Southwest, and what have you done? What has the government done to help? Well, we just only found out. We haven't done anything. We haven't found out about it, but we're gonna find them. We're gonna just find them. Have you done anything to try to prevent it? Well, of course not. No, I was home with my baby. How would I be doing that? And he figures as vice president, he's watching. Harris does less than him.
Yeah. And
he's saying, man, that's even a better job for me. I was a lousy mayor. I was one of the worst mayors ever. People thought he was like ridiculous as a mayor. A do-nothing mayor. As Secretary of Transportation, I do things wrong.
It'd be better if he did nothing.
Well, supply chain, he screwed up completely. I don't know if he's responsible for this, but he sure isn't helping very much. And so he's figuring, where can I go and I can succeed somebody who has screwed up more, but I screwed up, it won't be so bad. And he's got it, vice president. She's doing a great job at the border, right? We're being invaded. Absolutely being invaded. So what do we have tonight, Ted, on this beautiful evening in Florida and elsewhere, but here in Florida, it's quite nice in the land of freedom.
America's Mayor live from beautiful Florida with America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. We have a big audience tonight. People are tuned in. They're fired up. They love that you're down in Florida and they're down here. Beyond just, of course, the warm weather and the holidays. Is there any specific reason beyond the fact that you obviously love Florida, you love the state?
I own an apartment here.
And you have a place down here.
I've owned this apartment for 10, 12 years. I've been coming here 20 years, never as a political statement. Now this is like similar to, I guess, like when the people lived in East Berlin and they were allowed to go to West Berlin. I can leave a Democrat, crooked, dominated New York, where well, at least last year you had to have your papers in order to go into restaurants.
Even here.
No, here, no. Last year,
No, in New York.
last year was when I came. Last year was wonderful. It really was like leaving East Berlin and coming to West Berlin.
Yeah.
Because in New York, even me, I mean, I'm not going to say anything about the one to let me in, but every once in a while I go, they may. I say, no, I have natural immunity. Wer not? I want to see your papers. Herr de Blasio says you must have your papers. If you do not have your papers, you will not be allowed in this restaurant. I will call the paper police. I will call the behavior police. We have numerous police here. They work.
What happened?
They work on all kinds of COVID crimes. There was like a robbery going on next door. You should call those police. We don't have those. Those people are entitled to take what they want. See, that's New York. Here, it's more like, I grew up, you don't have to have papers store. If there's a robbery, they actually arrest and put the person in jail who did it. Isn't that novel? It's just different. I don't walk out of my house and I have to, wear a mask because there's too much marijuana smoke. I never had to wear a mask because of COVID because it doesn't work. It probably doesn't work, but it does cut down the odor a little. And I'm annoyed because I can't smoke a cigar in Central Park, but you can blow your mind on marijuana, as much as you want. Oh, and marijuana doesn't hurt you at all. Doesn't do anything to your brain. Getting whacked out like that and not knowing where you are after you have too much, it doesn't do anything permanent to your brain.
Thanks for joining us, America's Mayor Live with America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani, live from sunny and warm Florida. I guess the sun's not out, so.
When you wake up.
Thanks for joining us. So, Mayor, people want to know, have you been following the George Santos situation? In Republican member of Congress from New York's 3rd district is having some issues defending some past statements.
Does he plagiarize? Does he generally plagiarize? I mean, then we could have almost a complete. So he made up a job, huh? The other guy made up that he had like extra degrees that he didn't have. He also, although he was one of the dumbest people and well known as one of the dumbest people among his classmates in his law school class, he once announced he was number one. Yeah. Must have a real chip in the shoulder for growing up as a dumb guy on the block, right?
You would think.
No, come on. I know that. The guy grew up with, he was first introduced to me as he's the dumbest guy I know.
This is Joe Biden.
His law school classmate said he was the dumbest kid in law school, but he's a nice guy. So that must be the way his.
That's not pretty nice. Nice.
I mean, think of it. That's the way he was probably related to as a kid. He's kind of even that whole corn pop thing I have figured is a big lie. I think Joe used to get slapped around a lot when he was a kid. Nobody challenges at it as an old man, somebody else to go behind the barn with them unless they've never been behind the barn. And I think Joe probably got whacked around pretty good as a kid and was the dumbest kid in class. Now, I know that from some of his classmates. And not only that, he was a cheater. He failed out of his first year of paper to make up for it, and he got caught plagiarizing in that paper. And nonetheless, they let him back in. We don't know how. And then you like to be friendly with him, but you didn't want to sit next to him because you'd get in trouble because he basically spent an entire exam looking over your shoulder, which gives you the character of man is a pathological liar you almost always can count on the fact he's lying and lies his way out of everything, says what he's told, and has no ability to perceive reality with the intelligence that normal human beings have. That's why someone like Gates would say so freely that in his entire career, Biden has never gotten a foreign policy situation correct. That isn't luck; it's stupidity. And we made him president. You did. I didn't. Real hard to try to warn you that not only is that true, but that he's biggest crook that ever ran for president. And now it's basically proven. You just got to go get the proof. But the FBI doesn't do that anymore. The FBI goes after parents who don't want to see their children have their gender changed without being told about it. We got a screwed up world under the Democrats. And boy, you got the power to unscrew it. You really do. You got the power to do it. You exercised it somewhat this fall, and you didn't do a good enough job. You did better than we were. We have a Republican Congress that looks like is very serious about stopping the express train to communism, if we're not in the station already. But we got to go further. Also, I think this whole COVID thing, the books are now being written about how progressives got a lot of people killed, didn't they? Particularly Fauci. Wow. First of all, they would have gotten a lot of people killed if they were president at that time, because they would not have cut off China. And we'd have had another 1 million people dead if we kept having Chinese come in. So now we have a whole thing going on in China where they're lock them down, communist, Nazi, fascist approach seems to be backfiring, and their people are dying left and right because they develop no natural immunity, which, after all, is the only thing you can really count on with a new virus, not a vaccine. The chances of developing a vaccine are less than 50%. Unless you're really a fool and can't read, this is not a vaccine. That word is a Biden word, meaning it means the opposite of what it is intended. For example, the border is secure, says the president, puppet press secretary and puppet Mayorkas. The border is secure. The border is secure. And then the next thing you see are all those people wading across the border, babies dead in the water, people dead in the water, people coming out of manholes in El Paso, and the mayor of New York complaining that he's getting inundated because he once announced he wanted all the illegal immigrants he could get. And when he got his first 50, he couldn't handle it. So they lie to such an extent that it is a good exercise just to assume that the opposite is the truth. That's our president. He's constantly lying. So now he faces a similar problem because China is having a massive epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, of COVID, because they locked everybody up and nobody developed natural immunity, which is the only thing that really works, which is what I have. Well, we are now testing. The last group that came in, 38% tested positive. 38%. Why do we let any of them in? The test is not 100%, is it? It never was 100%, ever. So you got 38. That surely, with that number, which is a very large number out of a group of maybe 200-300, right, on a plane, you got to have others you didn't get. So thanks, Joe. You just brought COVID in from your favorite country, China, idiot. They should be banned. You really take this disease as seriously as you do. You probably created emotional damage for a third of the kids in America over the ridiculous mask policy that the Communist Union and Fauci had for 2 or 3 years because of this horrible disease. And now you're letting in a country that is overwhelmed with the illness. shows up statistics on random flights that are unbelievable, and you let the rest in. Take them to your house. Do they do anything right? They don't, because they were never designed, they're governing. When you have that kind of a silly, unrealistic, liberal philosophy that, money grows on trees, we can spend all the money we want, like Biden has done, and therefore, and sees no relationship between the money he spent and the horrible damage he's doing. Don't have enough money to buy food. It doesn't realize his connection to that. It indicates that there's a certain stupidity that is created by their unrealistic Pollyannish attitude, which, after all, is one of the core problems with the socialist philosophy, reason why it's failed. It is a complete opposite of human nature, and runs up against human nature. And then violence has to be used to force people to do what their nature, what their common sense, what their human reasoning tells them not to do, which is, I work, you don't, and I support you. And then to force that, you got to go kill them. Therefore, Nazi Germany, China, Soviet Union, Venezuela, Cuba, they really work well, huh?
Thanks for joining us. Stephen in Michigan, really good tonight. Must be something in the air down there.
Freedom.
So
we're not in a Soviet state.
So thanks for joining us. Let us know who you are and where you're tuning in from. Keep the questions coming. Some really good questions tonight. We just talked about the Santos situation, and someone.
Oh, you want to know what I think? I think he should not be allowed in. No, let me amend that. I would, if he weren't elected by the people, I'd say, no doubt, throw him out.
Yeah. He was on false pretenses, you could say. You could argue.
Well, so was President Biden.
Yeah. That's my thing, Mayor.
Well,
let's call for him to resign. They should be. What about the President of the United States? Isn't that a little bit larger of a office?
Wasn't he hiding things that are far more significant? He was hiding
from foreign countries.
He was having millions of dollars worth of bribe. If you would have the patience, if they would have the patience just to spend 10 minutes on the Ukrainian case, you'd realize it's a $7 or $8 million bribery case, straight out bribery case for which I've put people in prison for far less. Bribery is defined really simply as offering something of value to a public official in exchange for that official's action or to influence that official's action. Simple. Here's how you fill it in. 100% conviction. He offered a $1 billion payment to a broke treasury, but wouldn't give it to him unless he performed an official action, which is to fire the prosecutor. The motive is irrelevant. His lying, he compounds it. He says, my motive was the prosecutor was crooked. Well, so was the prior prosecutor of Ukraine, and so was the one who replaced him. In fact, so crooked that Biden went on to share, to basically carry out his crookedness with that guy. There's no proof the guy's crooked, by the way. There was no investigation of him, no special. They got a bunch of people related to Soros that run the NGOs that are crooked in various countries in Europe to say that the prosecutor was crooked. They had no dealings with him. They didn't know him. They just sent in letters, very much like the 51 phony, lying intelligence experts sent in letters saying that I and Johnson and others were Russian were Russian agents dispensing Russian disinformation. That's what they do. So they had to cover his being fired. So they got a bunch of phony letters from people who knew nothing about the situation, like the 51 intelligence people, to say that the prosecutor was crooked. Let me emphasize, there was no investigation of him. There was nothing in the file suggesting it. There is in Ukraine that will back that up, that he was crooked. In any event, what would it matter if he was crooked? All of Ukraine is crooked. Was then, is now. He certainly wasn't a big crook. He wasn't like Biden's friends, Poroshenko, who was his best friend, was in Ukraine. The boss of his son was not only a crooked man, he's a member of organized crime, a pro-Russian. This guy was a saint compared to these guys. So he got him fired. But he leaves out of the narrative an important fact, which becomes a false exculpatory statement. He leaves out of it that his son was under investigation. But what he really leaves out of it is that several years earlier, his son was offered millions of dollars if Joe would come in and fix the case for the company when it was necessary so that Zlochevsky could save his $27 billion. Every single thing I told you is provable. Everything is provable by the hard drive and is not, I mean, of course, it's alleged, hasn't been proven in a court of law, but trying this case would be like a disc jockey. You play the records. And Joe's virtually admitted it anyway, hasn't he? By lying off for years. I never talked to any of my son's foreign clients, and there are pictures of him all over the place. There are letters thanking him for meeting with them. His son has explained, and you'd put this in evidence, that he gave 50% of all his income to his father for 30 years. Now, if we take the congressman out of office for lying about his resume, how do we not take Joe out of office for lying about his involvement with the foreign crooks that his son was involved with, from whom he got money, which his son, his father? See, you don't get it as straight as that, even from Fox, because they don't use the highly incriminating text of the son to the daughter in December of 2019, which says, for 30 years, I've been paying all the bills of this family, and I've had to give 50% of my income to my father, which, of course, makes logical all the money he was getting. When you listen and watch this, you say, why would anyone give? I mean, the amount of money could be $100 million that's all encompassed in that hard drive. Why would anybody give him even 30 million or 40 million, 30 million what China gave? Well, of course, they'd give it to him for his father. And therefore, the best proof that it's a bribe is there's no other purpose for it. And secondly, he tells you what he did with it. He gave half of it to his father. And then on the other side of it, you can show the things that Joe did for these people, the way he helped them, the way he helped China. I mean, he's done things for China that take your breath away. Things that come close to treasonous, like give up the Bagram Air Base 400 miles from China. My goodness, never mentioning China's role in COVID. An awful lot of Americans lost lives as a result of that. He doesn't want to find out about China's role, and the failure to find out means it can happen again. Maybe it is happening again. So I think they got a real problem. You throw this guy out. I mean, this is like throwing out a guy for jaywalking and not throwing a guy out for murder. I mean, this guy's crime was jaywalking compared to massive international bribery. He lied about resume. So he's covered all of this guy's crime.
30-something years ago.
Yeah. I mean, and one lied once. The other guy has lied for 35 years, continually, almost every single day. Almost every single day that he's the president, his administration tells a lie.
Is there a way for someone like George Santos, if you were advising him, Mayor Giuliani, let's say he's saying, I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere, Mayor. I'm taking this office. They got to drag me out of here, vote me out if they want me gone. What do I do? What would you advise him to do? How does he handle it publicly?
Well, what he's doing, although his interviews are not particularly persuasive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What could he be doing
I think his best argument is the one I'm making, which is, look, I made a terrible mistake. I lied about my resume. I was always embarrassed. I didn't graduate from college. Like Joe was always embarrassed. He was the dumbest guy in school, and therefore lied about it all his life. That's the truth, by the way. They just talk like real people instead of all the garbage that Democrats engage in, who have become liars because they can't face the truth.
Yeah, that's what people like about you, Mayor. They
feel
like they're
Joe. I know Joe for 35 years. I knew from the beginning. This guy's got a chip on his shoulder because he's dopey and everybody knows it, and he's in it profession where most people are bright. And he knows they're saying, it shows that it wasn't Joe stupid. Oh my God, what a stupid thing to say. You mean he couldn't remember?
When you say profession, you mean lawyers,
I
not
mean,
politics.
I mean his
You
friend.
said politics, most people are bright. I don't know.
No. Most people are bright enough in Congress. I mean, they're not like him.
Exactly.
He's a functional idiot. I mean, the guy was a kid. People laughed at him because he's stupid, dumb. Now we made him president. Now, instead of dealing with it by being funny or he became a pathological liar to cover it up.
And he's a nasty guy. What President Trump wants to say, such a nasty. This is a nasty guy.
It's an evil guy. This guy's evil. I mean, look what he's doing with his grandchild. He's got a grandchild. He wouldn't put out a stocking for her. Doesn't recognize her.
Oh, that's so sad.
Now this kid is going to look back, and see her grandfather in prison, God willing, and she's going to say, Grandpa never even recognized me.
It's sad. That was a tearjerker. Not much in the news makes me tear up these days, Mayor. But
stop this. He's a nice guy stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus,
that's why he won.
You think his son is a drug addict, that bad a drug addict, and he's a nice guy? Who was using him for things drug addicts shouldn't be doing without getting worse? You take a son who you theoretically love and you make him your bag man with some of the most crooked people in the world, and you don't expect him to be a worse drug addict? It could be. But certainly no intelligent father would do that. Mafia guys wouldn't do that. The guy's really a horrible guy. How you voted for him, I don't know. How do you vote for a guy? Forget that you didn't know that he's the biggest crook that ran for president, which you now know. How do you vote for a guy that doesn't come out of his basement and he goes to places and people show up, and they show up in cars and they beep their horns, and half of them beeping their horns were beeping in protest? Now, how do you vote for a guy that never accomplished anything, never did anything? The one legislation he passed, he disavowed, and he probably doesn't even remember. How did you get? You really should sit back and examine, because it's part of what the Democrat Party has done to you in American cities that are now falling apart because of Democrat mayors and their policies. I mean, they're busting apart. New York is not nearly as bad as Philadelphia, as Buffalo, as Rochester, Atlanta, Georgia, as St. Louis, Chicago, Los Angeles. They're busting apart because you're brainwashed and you vote for Democrats who claim to help the poor and are, in fact, the worst enemy of the poor.
People, there's a question that's come up a few times. What can people do? What can they say to their family members, friends, people in their lives? Because a lot of people watching tonight, they support you. A lot of them vote how we may vote. I would guess. Educated guess. What about, how do we convince those in our lives who continue to vote against their own interests in most cases? What can you say to them?
Well, you have to try as best you can to logically approach the issues that come up. So you can't just do it you're not going to do it in general, and they like Joe. You're not going to just use the general argument that he's demented or that he's stupid or that he's, but you got to deal with something that they agree is a problem, because the minute you do, Joe is extraordinary in the sense that situation which a president is facing, not problems that come from our economy or from our environment or from, most of it, the problems we're facing, he created. Let's say, maybe brainwashed Democrats can't accept this one, but I would think a logical person would come to the following conclusion. Putin would not have invaded Ukraine if Trump were president. Do you agree with that? Do you agree? Can you see that Putin, over the short period of time that Biden was in office, saw almost irrefutable proof that he would not be challenged in any significant way? Biden constantly repeated, to the point of almost sounding like a silly child, that we would not use troops. I mean, Putin made him say it so often. I guess he wanted him to remember it. But I knew exactly what Putin was doing. How did he not know that? Putin said to himself when this guy got elected, "This is my chance of getting what I want back." I couldn't have done it under Trump. Who knows what that guy would do? And this asset for a president to be feared, respected. Maybe somebody thinks they're a little crazy. Ronald Reagan had that working for him brilliantly, won the Cold War with it. As opposed to smart man, bad man, very smart. He doesn't engage in lying to himself. So he knows that the man is that Biden has a career of being a weakling, an extraordinarily weak individual who isn't even consistently wrong. He knows that he's extraordinarily incompetent and surrounds himself with what I would imagine Putin as a professional sees as extraordinarily silly people. And he knows that the party is, how would you describe it? They're not anti-war because they end up going to war. They're anti-America. They go to war sooner for somebody else than America. So he sees what happens in Afghanistan, probably has a worry that he might want to impress NATO and he might have an obligation to Ukraine because he took so much illegal money there. That had to worry him a bit. He had to have checked that out. Remember that Biden took a lot of money in Russia, too. We just don't know. Got the $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife, who is an extraordinarily crooked woman. I mean, that's proven. What I'm telling you now is proven. And in fact, I stop and say to myself, how could that guy be president? Well, in any event, who knows what Putin has on him? I have the computer. The computer is half or maybe a third of what they have. Who knows what they have on him? Who knows what Putin has on him? We know he has that was all a lie, occasioned by projection, because they all know that Putin's got crap on them and uses it. So you are looking at a war with 100,000 people or more that would not have happened had you not selected a unworthy, horrible person for president of the United States. That was presented to you with deliberate lies told about his background by various times in the lives of some of the most important people in this country. Doesn't frighten you as to what would be coming? It doesn't frighten you that when those 51 intelligence people heard about the hard drive and know how crooked Joe is, they didn't decline to lie for him? But because they hated Trump so much, they were willing to have a massive thief in the White House. They know he's a thief. They know it. It's all, I mean, they see the material, I see. They're not dumb like he is. They know he's a crook. Point them to important positions. The crook will keep them with their security clearance so they can pull down their 8 or 10 million. That's the thing that's frightening, that there's not only one or two of these people, there's a whole little cadre of deep state people like this who have turned on the United States. It doesn't mean anything. You don't sign that letter if the United States means anything to you. You don't sit one more day in the cabinet without asking for an examination of his mental fitness if you care about America. But I've concluded that they don't care about America. They care about having powerful jobs, all say very wonderful things about each other, and the New York Times can write very nice editorials about them. Making a lot of money, some legitimately, many illegally. And that's why we're in the position that we're in. So I think his best defense is you better not get me and not get Joe Biden. How do you throw me out of office? On what theory do you throw me out of office? That I defrauded the voters, and the guy you got sitting in the biggest office in this country didn't get in by defrauding the voters. I'm talking about hiding direct, overpowering, massive evidence that he's been a criminal for 30 years of the nature that could be analyzed and proven by any forensic analyst or any good reporter. I was hidden from the American people. And he got himself elected. Also, he spent his life lying about the things that he did. Many, many things. Campaign, he lied about giving a medal on a battlefield. In the past, he lied about being first in his class, and he lied about not plagiarizing, which he did. And then he's gone through delusions, like saying that he saw Franklin Roosevelt on television, reading the newspapers, reading the comics. There was no television when he was alive. Recently, he said he gave his uncle the Purple Heart after he became vice president. Had him in the White House and gave him Purple Heart. His uncle was dead. So now this guy's a penny ante little liar. The other guy is a world-class liar and thief. Democrats got a big problem. I don't know why the Republicans, I'm glad we're not as dishonest, but we're not as tough as they are. We're not as mentally tough as they are. It's an obvious response, by the way. It's an obvious response of people in glass houses throwing rocks. They're trying to kill a little pipsqueak, and much worse than him as the president of the United States, and they want him to get away with it. So, what else we got?
Well, Mayor, we have just a few minutes left, so thanks for joining us. You can go to rudygiulianics.com. That's rudygiulianics.com. What does the CS stand for, Mayor?
Common sense.
Common sense. And, of course, you can catch the Mayor from 3 to 4 p.m. on weekdays, WABC Radio, WABCradio.com for the Rudy Giuliani Show.
That'll be on tomorrow, and hopefully tomorrow. Right now, there's a podcast out focusing on 2 of the year. There, I describe them as number 5 and 4. Tomorrow, late in the day or early Saturday, we will put out the final one, which will be the top 3 stories of the year. In each case, I choose the story not as much, it's hard to say biggest, but I choose it as the one that was hidden the most and was very big. So I would try to get that on Rudy's Common Sense, rudycs.com, and maybe look at the first one and call me about it tomorrow night. Come on. Apologize for last night. We were traveling to Florida. First one we've missed since we started.
Really
and
was.
I enjoy doing this. I enjoy particularly your involvement in it. And see if you can grab one of those podcasts and take a look at it. So we'd have a basis for your pushing me on it, because it'll help me analysis when people. I analyze by talking things out. So this helps me a lot if you engage me and you send Ted questions and we go back and forth.
Lots of questions coming.
Also, you guys should do a pal of ours. It's not a favor, just a way of all standing. 2 things to do, which liberals do all the time. They stick together. You should go to My Pillows, and you should order. Well, right now, I'd order like unlimited numbers of slippers, just in case you lose them. The slippers are fabulous. I got some down here. I got some tomorrow. I got some down here. I got some at home. I've got sheets, pillows.
And they should use the promo code Rudy. And beyond just getting a good product, explain again, Mayor, if you can, what else they're doing by purchasing a MyPillow product using the promo code.
They're helping both of us who are spending a great deal of our time trying to save America, and you're in many cases. I mean, you think about Mr. Pillows. He's been shut out because he stands up for you. I mean, if he would keep his mouth shut, he'd still be selling at Macy's and all these other communist places. But the reality is, he's been shut out, and not a bad idea to make up for it. And if you do Rudy, I've been shut out too, so you can help me a little. And the same thing with Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is a company that I was going to grab my phone. That's a phone company. It's just like all the ones that give you service. Prices are comparable and less. The service is just as good, absolutely just as good. And they've been conservative company for years, very heavily involved in the abortion decision, very heavily involved in a lot of other things in terms of their money and their people volunteering. And they are, and you're going to find yourself a lot more comfortable with a lot of your private stuff, et cetera, in their hands. That's patriotmobile.com. Go to them and see if they don't have something for you, because they've been kind of working out packages for people because of inflation. And number two, if you're a veteran or a first responder, they've got a special package for you for sure with bonuses. Kind of help all of us. So do that and tell them Rudy sent you. And come back tomorrow night. Podcast and Dr. Maria and I getting ready for Sunday for uncovering the truth between 10 and 11. We love to talk to you, and we love to get your ideas, and we love free speech in this country. It's a matter of it's a matter of somebody's got to do it. We got to make sure that we've got to make sure that we get the word out on the things that are absolutely happening in this country.
And can you mention again, Mayor, because we brought it up on our ticker here, what by going to patriotmobile.com, what they can do by going to patriotmobile.com?
Well, you're basically supporting an organization that takes a certain amount of its profit and puts it into fighting for our causes, as opposed to these other organizations that are involved in this new world, Silicon Valley type world, and basically they're trying to undermine America and make us into a fascist country. And you're with your own people. You're with people that aren't going to turn on you. Hopefully, they're not going to let things happen like happened to me with my iCloud being taken without my knowing about it. The first day I represented Donald Trump. They never did to anybody else. The conspiracy of the left wing against American patriots may be one of the worst in the country since slavery. I mean, it's a terrible thing. It was, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. It's going to get bigger and bigger.
So the folks want to know, before we go, Mayor, are the plants, are the figures, those real? Are those plants that were cut into the shape of dogs? You may not even be aware of what's, let me grab some. I'll grab it from behind you here.
Let me just turn around.
Yeah.
Oh, these?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, these are my doggies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they were real. I love dogs. I didn't travel so much. Great dog. She was on the air two days ago with us. Stanley, great dog, great little dog, very cute, very spunky. Ooh.
Have you had dogs all your life? Did you have a dog?
Not all my life, but I did have a dog. Yeah, Goalie. My dog, Goalie, named after the goalie of the New York Rangers when they won the Stanley Cup.
What year?
Well, we got him. We got him the year they won the Stanley Cup. We got him in 94.
90. So this is when with Andrew and Caroline. So you did this as a
mayor,
as an adult.
Yeah.
You didn't have one as a kid.
I didn't.
Did a lot of people in your neighborhood?
That many dogs when I was
not a thing. Like
not
nowadays.
Yes.
New York's a big dog city. So is Washington.
Oh yeah. Nowadays, you have a dog. And I promised Andrew if I got elected mayor and we had the big backyard, we get a dog. And I won. The night I won, I went upstairs. I went into his room. We were at a hotel. And Caroline, believe it or not, was already awake, even though she was a baby.
They were excited. They're happy.
Well, Caroline didn't know really what she was excited about. She was about 2,
Okay.
but she was very excited.
Yeah.
I woke Andrew up. I said, Andrew, get up. Daddy won.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to get really excited because he campaigned with me. And he said, when do we get the dog?
That's good. That's funny. All right, Mayor. Well, that's the hour. You want to send everybody out with a nice closing message?
Yeah,
night in Florida.
I would say come to Florida and give it a try. I mean, this is really beautiful. First, as soon as I got off the airplane, and it was a long trip. I mean, not unnecessarily. I'm not complaining, particularly given what the poor people with Southwest went through. But it was a longer trip than usual because of all the backups. But the minute you get out and you smell the air and you think about the surrounding political environment, which is traditionally American, as opposed to the crooked government in New York, New York is a state-dominated society. Meaning, by state, I don't mean the state of New York. I mean government-dominated. The way socialist organizations dominate your life and tell you what you can do. For example, the school system is completely dictatorial. It's been dictatorial since before I was mayor, when they put out Heather has 2 mommies and wouldn't tell the parents. Didn't think they had to get the permission of the parents. That's the mentality of New York. The mentality of Florida is much more like the mentality that's more of the freedom and greatness of America. And that means something to me. I wouldn't be doing what I was doing if it wasn't enormously important to me, an important part of my happiness. So there's something to be said about states that value freedom and don't lock you in, lock you up, stop you from practicing when you know they've been trying to do that and looking for an excuse to do that for some time. So I think we got them figured out and we got them on the run, and we're going to keep them running until we get the presidency back in 2024. So God bless America. And I think it's very helpful to remind you of all of what you've got. If you find a time and when you wake up in the morning, to just say a simple little prayer. God, thank you for allowing me to be in America. It's a special thing that God has allowed you to do. That's why those people are coming here. Has to be handled fairly. It has to be isn't destroyed, and our nation isn't destroyed. But you can't credibly do the stuff that these 16, 19 people do and really believe it when you see that people coming in here like crazy. How could we be a systemically racist country? But they all want to come to a systemically racist country that Joe Biden accuses us of, attacks us. So tomorrow morning, get up and say, thank you, God, for allowing me to be in America. God bless America.